Hey guys, back in my day, oh, I feel so old. Back in my day, the makeup range was about here. There wasn't a lot of makeup options. You either had really high-end, the makeup my mom would probably go for. You know, the Estee Lauder, the YSL, those bougier ones, and then MAC. All I remember when I was like 16, 17, 18 was mostly MAC. That's what everyone was using. Honestly, I don't even remember a lot of people using drugstore makeup brands. But now the makeup range is wild. It's crazy. It could be so overwhelming because you wouldn't even know where to start, especially if you're a beginner. So I feel like it was easier back in the day when I started because I only had a few options and I was happy with those options. So if I was 18 years old now in this day and age, I would not know where to begin because, like I said, there's a huge range of makeup now. So these are the products I would buy for my 18-year-old self. These are the products I would buy for any beginners. Basically the makeup that would make your life easier and less stressful. Kind of like foolproof. You're gonna look good when you use these products and they're easy to play with at the same time. I have no idea what the younger folks are wearing when it comes to makeup. Are they doing bold, colorful looks like we were in 2010? Are they just sticking to the natural? A lot of them are into skincare. They're like 14-year-olds who are into like $70 skincare using retinol. Like, you don't need that. I have no idea what the teenagers now are into. So I'm basing this off what I would buy for younger Sasha. Okay, so let's start with what eyeshadow palettes I would buy her. So at first I was like, you know, I can get her a basic palette. The Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palette. It has all your browns and neutrals to make an easy everyday look. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna buy her a $70 palette for her first eyeshadow palette. I'm like, no. I wanna spoil her, as you'll see throughout this video, but she doesn't need a $70 eyeshadow palette, okay? It's her first time. We can get her cheaper palettes. I would definitely give her something like a ABH Causemetics 120 eyeshadow palette, which is this. You know, my first makeup palette, and the only palette I ever needed was my Coastal Scents 88 palette. I would get her some sort of palette that had a rainbow of colors. Like, is this still a thing? Are there any makeup brands that are still doing this where you just get like a basic mix of colorful shades? So number one, I would get her something like this so she can play around, she can figure out what colors work best for her. All my looks when I was younger were all very colorful. There were no neutral looks. If I was 18 in this day and age, I honestly don't know what I would be into. Okay, this next one is what popped in my head because it's one of my favorite palettes. She could live off of this alone if she wanted both a basic yet some colorful in there, plus the easiest blending, and it would be my ABH Causemetics Fuck Off palette. Literally this brown, you don't even need different browns. Like, I need 3 or 4 different browns to make a look. Light, medium, dark. I have no idea how. This can magically layer on to be a light brown, then a medium brown, then a dark brown. Literally, she would only need this brown. I'd want her to have a purple. She loves purple. And then the green is beautiful for brown eyes. I feel like this is a good neutral yet colorful palette for her. But the one thing, if we're talking realistically, 18-year-old Sasha was a very religious little girl. My parents put me in like very religious schools from elementary to college. So if I saw this word, if I went to 18-year-old Sasha and gave this to her, she would be so offended. She would hate me. I remember one of my friends in school, he said, "What the hell?" And I was like, oh, I got so mad at him. I was like, take that back. Do not say what the hell. So maybe I'd wait till she started rebelling and got out of that phase. Maybe I'll give this to her when she turns 21. But younger Sasha aside, just for my beginner folks, people who wants to start out, some of the easiest colors and shades to blend. Okay, and my last, and I might be biased because this is still my favorite eyeshadow palette, is the KimChi Rainbow Shartz palette. There's a smaller version of this, so I would get her the smaller version. I've said a million times how blendable these browns are. They are more blendable, they're more easy to work with than the Makeup by Mario palette, and that one's $70, so I don't see why it's so expensive when there's so many other palettes that blend so smoothly. So again, remember, we're working in terms of what's the easiest makeup to work with. What will make your life so much easier as a beginner or even someone who's been doing makeup for a million years. Those would be the 3 palettes I would gift her. Okay, now let's go in with the look. I would get her Urban Decay eyeshadow primer. This was my first eyeshadow primer. If I'm doing a really heavy look, I'll use concealer, but for a beginner, I would probably feel too intimidated to use concealer just because it could get really messy. Even back in the day, the majority that everyone was using was either the primer potion or MAC's paint pot. Even with the paint pot, just the fact that it's kind of like a concealer and it makes your eye like one solid color, that still intimidated me because I didn't use foundation. If I just put on concealer or a paint pot and didn't do my face, you could see like the edges of the paint pot peeking through. So again, that's also why I didn't go for any kind of paint pot or concealer for my first eyeshadow primer. I'm going to be using this bright pink. Now when it comes to brushes, especially eyeshadow brushes, I would buy her the BK Beauty. There's a set for small and hooded eyes. Oh my gosh, that would have made my life so much easier. I feel like my eyes were just a little bit more hooded when I was younger. If you want makeup brushes that make your life so much easier, then you can start off with BK Beauty. I still love my Sigma brushes. They have never done me wrong. But I just noticed that when I started using BK brushes, I was like, oh wow, these blend so well. How come no one ever like invented brushes a long time ago for smaller or hooded eyes? This is Sigma's E35 brush, by the way. Now we're gonna go into the Fuck Off palette and use the purple, beat it, and I'm gonna be using my BK 211 brush. See, like here's an example. I'm not sure if this is in the small and hooded set. I didn't really look at the numbers in the set. I just bought a bunch from BK. For example, for the A502, I don't know if you can tell, but it's like flat here and then spreads out, and see, like this is perfect for your hooded eyes. I freaking love that. And then this is small enough for your hooded eyes. I'm just like, why did it take you guys so long? So I'm gonna be using 211, keeping that mostly on the outside of the crease, but still dragging it in a bit. Should I zoom in? I feel like I haven't put on like eye makeup zoomed in like that on my channel in a while. Excuse my acne on my nose. My skin is like, oh, you want to pretend like you're a teenager again? Here, we're gonna give you some more acne. Now we're gonna go in with a black. Now I think I used the BK A502 for the black, because this, again, this gets so nice in your crease if you have hooded eyes. Like, it's so satisfying. Like right in there. Oh, and other than the BK Beauty brush set, the two main eye brushes that I would definitely get for my younger self that would make her life so much easier would be Sigma's E36 blending brush. Look how tiny that is. That is my tiniest blending brush, and that is perfect just for the top of that eyeshadow blend. And the second would be my ABH number 3 brush. I have like 3 of those. I think one's in the bathroom. I'll probably go grab it. But these two, this and the ABH, would have made my life so much easier. So honestly, I have no idea. I do not remember what I used to cut the crease when I was younger. It had to be MAC Paint Pot because I did not have concealer. I don't think I even know what concealer was at 18. I didn't have dark under eye circles when I was 18, so it's not something I had to worry about. So I think I had to, oh, I probably used NYX's the jumbo pencil to cut the crease. I'm just grabbing my travel size Hourglass concealer to cut the crease. See, if I had this when I was younger and the Sigma brush, it would have made my life so much easier. Okay, so for all over the lid, I'm gonna be using Grape. Just gonna be using my finger to pat that on. I'm going back in with the purple, sticking to the number 3 brush. Should I even be doing a tutorial? I feel like no one's really doing eyeshadow tutorials anymore. They're just talking about the new makeup and like recommendations. I get it, we have every single eyeshadow makeup tutorial in the world, but like I still like watching them. Anyway, so I'm putting the purple at the end of that concealer just to mix it and blend it into the black. You know, it's funny, while I was playing with this and now while I'm playing with this, I've been thinking, wow, how are these eyeshadows blending so easily into each other? Because I always have a hard time, especially on my outer third. And I'm over here like, wow, this is working so well. Everyone's blending so well together. And I'm like, oh, well, duh. That's the whole point of this video. I wanted to give you the easiest stuff to work with. And these two eyeshadow palettes are the easiest ever. So again, I'm putting on the hot pink now to blend into the purple. And then I'm going back in with Grape, the main eyeshadow color, so there's not a straight line right there. And then I'm just going to use Organza for the brow bone. So after this, we are going to the makeup product that started this idea in my head, which is liquid liner. I have made 2 liquid liner videos talking about like over 20 liquid liners I have. So after testing probably over 30 liquid liners throughout the years, I know it's easy, I know it works, I know what like feels the best. And this was the only liquid liner where I was like, wow, this is perfect for a beginner. And it's the REM Beauty eyeliner marker. Something about the shape makes it so secure. It's not flimsy, but it's not too firm. This is what I would recommend for a beginner to use. I do not like mascara. I've said a million times, I'm not a mascara girly. But there are some that are easier to work with, and these are the 2 I would buy for my younger self / beginners. So first I was like, oh duh, Mellow Way is gonna be perfect because you can bend. So I mean, that's really perfect if you want to get into some spots, if you just have an eye shape where it's just hard to reach. I don't know why I wouldn't get this for my beginner self. Maybe because it would be too complicated, because I don't want her to get so used to this that when she buys any other mascara, it doesn't work like this. And honestly, like after using this for a bit, that bend, that angle, it doesn't make that huge of a difference. I would buy either one of these. Basically, any brush that is not fluffy. How many times I've stabbed my eye with fluffy brushes. So I would get something more bristly like this versus a fluffy brush. And these are both amazing mascaras. So the Thrive one, it doesn't flake like crazy and it's waterproof. And this one, there was 0 flaking, but it's not waterproof. I would just want to spoil her with like a more expensive one and then a more drugstore one. You know what, let me try Thrive on this side just so I remember what it feels like. I just remember every time I use this, I'm like, ooh, that feels so easy to work with. And I never stab my eye. And plus, since the tip is so thin, like I can get in there. So again, the Miloe one doesn't make that big of a difference because if the tip is small like this, you can get right in the corner. See, they are black, they are thick, but I also like how this is curved so it can really get underneath your lashes. Now after applying this, I can see the difference. This isn't as thick and black and heavy as the Thrive one. It's way more natural. Now when it comes to fake lashes, I feel like this is kind of a duh. Ardell's Demi Wispy lashes. I mean, there's a reason these are so popular and perfect for beginners. See, they're not bold, they're very natural. The one thing that would have made my life so much easier, I'm just so pissed why I didn't do it sooner, is getting lash tweezers. At first I was using regular tweezers. They were horrible. They did not help at all. And when I watched a bunch of YouTube makeup tutorials, a lot of them used their fingers. And a lot of them even said like, oh, my fingers are actually easier to use than tweezers. So I just stuck with that idea until I got these Exo Beauty lash tweezers. And when I used them the first time, I was like, dude, for all these years, my life could have been so much simpler if I just got lash tweezers. So another beginner thing, get some lash tweezers. So for 18-year-old Sasha, I would be done. I was only doing my eyeshadows. I did not have all of these freckles and these under eye bags and dark circles. We're pretending like she had all these problems too. Okay, primer. I would buy her a silicone primer. I'd probably get her the Tarte Shape Tape one. That was my first primer. It's still my favorite. Or the Smashbox one. I would not get her the e.l.f. one because that is sticky and I feel like it just takes a little bit more effort than a silicone one. Again, we are trying to base this around what's the easiest to work with. I remember when I had this Urban Decay one, I can't remember what it's called. I still have it in the bathroom. That was the worst primer ever. And I was so shocked because I bought that because so many of my favorite YouTubers love that. And I was like, dude, that is the hardest primer to work with. It got all up in my nose. It was so dry. It got all over my fingers. But a silicone one, once I'm done rubbing this, like, I'm done. Bam, simple. If I did the e.l.f. one, I would have to go and wash my hands afterwards. But with this, it doesn't leave any sticky residue on my fingers. Now, when it comes to foundation, it's funny because this foundation was in my favorite makeup products, but I hate the packaging. And the reason it's funny is because I am giving this to my younger self because of the packaging. And that is the About Face Skin Focused Foundation. I do not like foundations with anything that has to touch your face. Because again, you're dipping this back and forth onto your face and back versus a pump. But the reason I would want this for my younger self or a beginner is because with a regular pump, you can't really control how much is coming out. I love both of these, House Labs and Too Faced. This one's my favorite, but it is so liquidy. It gets my brushes and sponges so dirty. Like, I have to wash my brushes and sponges double than what I usually use for another foundation because this is so liquidy. But I would buy this for my younger self because at least with this, she can portion out how much foundation. Because let's say this is my first time putting on foundation, I'm gonna be like, is that enough? Like, how much is that gonna cover? Like, I'd be so scared. So at least this, you can portion it out how much you want. Also, I would not be getting her a brush for foundation. I feel like a sponge is always the easiest. And the same concept with the foundation is this does not pack on as much as a brush. So at least there's some room to make mistakes with the sponge. Because if you put too much, at least the sponge can soak it up versus a brush where it's kind of like, oh crap, like what do? I have to wipe off some of this foundation. I did not have this option when I was younger. This combo would be perfect for my younger self. So for concealer, I would buy her Tarte Shape Tape. It's, till this day, it's the easiest for me to work with. The wand is so nice and big that you don't have to keep layering it on. Till this day, it shows the least amount of wrinkles out of all the ones I've tried. And again, even though my 18-year-old self didn't have wrinkles, I would still buy this for her, but she would not need it. Now with setting powder, I would not get her an actual powder, you know, like an actual powder, because one, they are super messy. I am still stressed out when I use them because the powder just flies everywhere. You can't really control how much powder you get. I'm going to stick to the powder I always use. Like when I actually put on setting powder, I use my KVD Shade and Light Contour Duo. I'm pretty sure these powders are still around. I would just make my younger self use this because there's no mess, there's no fuss. I would also be using the sponge with it. Just wipe it across and then set my concealer and be done. Wipe the sponge across and then use that to set my powder. You know, let's move on to brows. So brows, either ABH or NYX Micro Brow, not that big of a difference. These, out of all the brow pencils I've tried, these are just the easiest to work with. I just hate brow pencils that are too creamy because they can lay on too thick if they're too creamy. And these are both pretty dry. I don't even know if I wrote down a brow gel. Did I? Bronzer? No. I'll still go find one. Brow gel was just not a thing. I've come to the conclusion that tinted brow gels are what works best for me, because every single one of my clear brow gels, no matter how many reviews people say that, oh, you don't see a white cast, all of them kind of show that clear gel on my eyebrow. But with a tinted brow gel, since it's brown, it looks like your brow color. But with a clear brow gel, it's kind of like when glue dries. It's clear, but you can still see it. So I would probably just buy her my favorite brow gel to this day, and it was also my first brow gel, which is my Eyeko tinted brow gel. I would recommend for your first brow gel, go with a tinted one. Eyeko brow gel or else Wow Brow is what I would buy my younger self, even though I personally don't think she would need any. I mean, like, where's that 18-year-old girl going where she needs her brows on fleek? Do people still say on fleek? When I went to go buy a new Eyeko, the people who didn't give good reviews were saying this is too liquidy, but yet that has never been a problem for me. Maybe if you touch the brow gel to your face, you could see the liquid, but I actually like that's really liquidy. I don't like the brow gels that are, I feel like clay. And this one is that recipe. This one is that formula, sorry. If you want a cheaper brow gel, tinted one that works, then go for e.l.f. See, I feel like both of them look exactly the same. Like, there's no difference. Beginners, go with a tinted brow gel just because clear brow gels has never made it easier for me. I can always see the outline no matter how little I apply. Like, I can just always see that crust. You cannot see it with a tinted brow gel. I would be buying her this duo. I do not think this duo is being sold anymore. I feel like they sell that big version, but I feel like the easiest one for her and everyone to work with would be Hourglasses, bronzers, and highlighters. So I do not have that little 3-pack one. That is what I would buy her. See, that I feel like would be spoiling her because Hourglass is so expensive, but just to make her life and your lives easier when it comes to bronzer and highlighters, I would straight up go with the Hourglass. And it started when I didn't steal my best friend's bronzer, she gave it to me. But when I took her Diffused Bronze Light and I used it for the first time, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't know bronzer could be this easy to work with, this easy to blend, this natural. The highlight is just the same. It's very natural. This one is in Brilliant Strobe Light. So, I mean, it would just be easier if I just got the trio and I would be set. So I would probably start her off with something really fluffy. Oh, is there still powder in there? Just because if you use something more dense, it's gonna be more obvious, more pigmented. You want more room for error. So I would get her a really fluffy brush. Only brush I use till this day if I want a nice diffused bronze look, which is Real Techniques 400 brush. This is just like an upgraded version of this. So when we're done with this bronzer, the blush I would recommend for beginners is just the same in terms of how well it blends and doesn't stick to one spot. When I use that blush, I'm never stressed out because it blends away. You can keep packing it on, but it never gets too much. Hell no, I would not get myself a liquid or cream blush. No. See, like it's a glow. I think I mentioned I even put a picture in another video when I was using bronzer back in the day. You could really see that line. I did not notice that at that age. The same vibe as this bronzer is the Charlotte Tilbury blush. Pillow Talk, obviously. Always work for me. Always one that I never have to stress about. And I stress about blush. So if you're a beginner and you want a good, solid, non-stressful blush, then go with Charlotte Tilbury. I'm just going to be using the same brush. See, like, I feel like no matter how much I dip in there, like, it never gets too much. I can always control it. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any, like, other powder blushes. I have Milani, Too Faced, Rare Beauty. No, I'll just buy her a Charlotte Tilbury. Because even though I love my Rare Beauty and Milani powder blushes, they still stress me out. So for a beginner, if you want something cheaper, go for Milani. But if you want to make it really easy on yourself, then get the Charlotte Tilbury one. See, it looks so natural. It's not too obvious. There's a slight glow. Like, it's just such a beautiful blush. Okay, now we're going to go into the Hourglass. See, again, looks very natural. So just for fun, I would probably give her my favorite highlighter, which is Rare Beauty's Exhilarate. That one's also very easy to work with, but that one you could make a mistake and put too much. It's so hard not to put too much because once you see that beam of light, like, it's so beautiful. I feel like this look is so bold, but this is what younger Sasha loved. Like I said, all of my looks were very heavy and colorful. I had no natural looks. She was always wearing her chokers. She started wearing eyeliner at like 13 years old and never stopped. I've gone through a million different eyeliners, but today, and the only one I would give my younger self / beginners would be the One Size eyeliner. It sucks because I had a whole video. I was almost done, but then I just stopped, and it was basically me trying out all my pencil liners in hot yoga class and how this was basically the only one that kept surviving time and time again. I pretty much stopped because there was one time I used this during the day, and when we got home there was a little bit of bleeding, and I was like, where did that come from? Like, that never happened. So like, I never really made that video because I couldn't push this anymore. But still, to this day, this is my favorite eyeliner. The only one I would be giving my younger self / beginners. So even though this did end up bleeding a little bit, it's the least bleedy out of all of them. I don't know if it's the choker or the look, but this is just reminding me of younger Sasha. She loved her chokers and heavy eye makeup and eyeliner. Lips wasn't actually hard. I could go and grab my younger self, bring her to Ulta and let her go wild. But again, back in that day, lips wasn't a huge thing. It was always on the eyes. Go back to 2009, 2010 YouTube makeup, everyone was focused on the eyes. So I don't think my younger self would care about the reds and the pinks and the purples. I would get her a nude. But it would specifically be the Makeup by Mario lipstick. The reason I feel like this is perfect for beginners, it's the perfect amount of creaminess. It's not too creamy where it just spreads everywhere. When I think too creamy, I think of a few NYX ones. I mean, NYX has a bunch of different lipstick formulas, but I would let my younger self play around with NYX first. But what I would gift her, I would probably gift her a few Makeup by Mario lipsticks. These have been the easiest lipsticks for me to work with. They look the most natural. I would never ever get her a liquid lipstick because even now they're hard to work with. You need a lip liner. Like, again, I'm trying to make her life easier, so I would never get her a liquid lipstick. I just feel like this is such a grown-up lipstick, but it doesn't look like your typical mom's. Was there Estee Lauder lipsticks? Because I could swear my mom had one. My mom had some kind of bougie lipstick. I remember it was like gold. It wasn't YSL, but you know, my mom had like one or two like of those really expensive lipsticks because that's really all there was. So I feel like this is a good balance for my younger self / beginners. I have all my lipsticks over there, and honestly looking at them, you know, even though the Urban Decay Oat Milk is my favorite nude lipstick ever, we're talking in terms of like easiness and beginner friendly. I'm going with the Makeup by Mario. So this is in the shade Flat Iron. See, like it glides on so smoothly. It feels like you're putting on lip balm. This was literally the only lipstick that came to mind when I thought of beginner friendly / easiest lipstick to work with. I think we're done. If only I could travel back in time and see my younger self, I would probably tell her, stop crying over all those boys. They're not worth it. There's this thing on TikTok, someone said something like, if you wouldn't say it to your younger self, don't say it to yourself. Kind of like, ooh, I feel so ugly, I feel so fat, etc. Would you say that to your younger self? Would you tell your younger self, oh girl, you look fat? If you wouldn't say that to your younger self, then don't say it to yourself. And I was like, oh damn. Yeah, when I was younger, I was like being bullied. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that. And then now, if I saw my younger self, I would be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Don't talk that way about yourself, you know? Anyways, that is all the makeup I would give my younger self. The makeup I would suggest for beginners. The easiest makeup to work with, the makeup that will make your life easier. These are the makeup items I could just live with. I could just live with these items and be good because they make my life that much easier. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I'll see you in the next one.